All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, match week 6/7. We're going to jump right into the Premier League, where we'll talk Pep's slightly poopy pants, Arteta's lack of integrity, and Manchester United in disarray. Then we'll hit halftime, where we'll fix Manchester United. Around the world, what to watch this week in Champions League, and of course the Hit It and Quit It MLS Minute, plus maybe some national team shout-outs. And then stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets, where the overtrain is cooking with super thermal, hyperponic, interstellar gasoline at the moment. We are so hot. And finally, everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now, time to welcome in this week's panel of beauties. First up, Mr. Tyler Terrans, who is fresh off calling a rather exciting U.S. Open Cup final, wherein LAFC outlasted Sporting KC. And my question for you, at the risk of being slightly masturbatory here, is whether you have stopped and sort of taken stock of, the boxes you've ticked in your commentary, career, and where, on that list was this cup final?
It was pretty high up. It might be number one. I mean, just not like the game itself. I've called like more exciting games. I still think that the Sacramento Republic penalty kick shootout win over Sporting Kansas City in 2022 in the semifinal was like still my favorite call of all time, in terms of like the moment and the history of it. But in terms of like getting this game and being trusted to do a final, which only one commentary team is ultimately trusted to do, it was pretty cool. I definitely. I actually was walking along that park in Santa Monica that it's a cliff that overlooks the Pacific Ocean, and then the promenade where you can bike and walk, and then the beach is down below. I'm walking along the park and sort of taking in how far this journey has been, calling USL games and CONCACAF Nations League C games down at Vista World Link in Florida. And I see Steve Cherundolo and his wife going for a morning walk as well the day of the game. Which was pretty cool. So just a really, really fun week, and it was pretty cool.
Nice. Congratulations, and shout out Devin Kerr as well, your tag team partner.
Yep.
Next up, Tommy McGunner, who I have to apologize to because I only have it in myself to be, highly congratulatory one time in the introductory questions. So this will go back to normal. So I'm actually fascinated with your life at IMG Academy. So basically, for people who don't know, you essentially attended high school at IMG Academy, I think, right? Is that a fair way to explain it?
Yeah, so for the soccer nerds, there's a program for youth national teams that no longer exists called like US Soccer Residency Program, which was stolen from like the French Federation to prepare the U17 team for the U17 World Cup. So most years they did not graduate from IMG, but for some reason they had like redone their school when I was there, and so I am officially an IMG graduate, while like not being an IMG athlete, which doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, that was my high school experience.
One of the few and the proud. Well, so here's your actual question about your life experience at IMG Academy. Did they have some sort of like prom or maybe joint prom with like the women's soccer program or the women's volleyball program? How exactly did that work?
Um, I think they had homecoming and prom for IMG. I never went to a single prom or homecoming. We were always like away on trips. I would gladly take my experience over going to homecoming or prom.
No homecoming, no prom. All right, all right.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I bet Tyler's got some stories he's just dying to tell right now. Maybe we'll get to those at Sam's Army After Dark, I'm sure. All right, we will hit it right into the Premier League here. So, interesting weekend of results. There was the Newcastle City 1-1 draw. You had Leicester taking it to Arsenal, kind of anyway, scoring 2 goals. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming, but yet Arsenal outlasting them, winning 3-2. Manchester United just doing what Manchester United does these years, and losing, getting spanked by Spurs 3-0, a red card aided result. I'm sure that we'll get into. Chelsea 4-2 over Brighton. The first half in that game was drunk, and then Everton winning. Everton won. Oh my goodness. So a lot of games, a lot of interesting results. Tyler, we'll go to you first. Which one of these stands out most?
I'm gonna go with two. I'm gonna go with City's draw and then Chelsea's 4-2 win over Brighton. I mean, Cole Palmer by himself is the most interesting man, and he is just a bad hombre. And then the City draw and clearly just lack. I mean, they miss Rodri. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's the type of game that he usually is responsible for sort of helping unlock and sort of set the tempo and the rhythm. And the Holland frustration continues to be evident. So, yeah, those are my two.
That's fair. Let's start with the one you said first, which I think was City. Yeah,
Yep.
you said City. Yes. So when I said Pep's slightly poopy pants in the open, I'll be honest, I was kind of talking about my pants because this weekend was the first time that I felt like, like Arsenal might go ahead and win this league. And I mean, like, listen, Liverpool's in first place right now. I think that's something that I don't know if a lot of people noticed that at the moment. Tyler, you haven't been singing their praises. I thought you were going to at least say something about the fact you're top of the table at the moment. But
We haven't played anybody yet.
yeah, I know.
I can't do that. I can't.
Okay, all right, that's very fair. Shockingly fair. But yeah, City losing this game and just not looking like the City of old. And then Arsenal just pulling it out by the seat of their pants in a game where I said on last week's podcast, I said, listen, this might be a game they overlook. And you guys laughed me off the podcast, or at least you tried to. And I was almost right. Right.
They drew it, and I don't know if that's a Freudian slip. You said that they lost the game, but that's what it feels like for City when they draw a game on the road. Still feels like a loss for them. Any dropped points for City feels like a loss. But I don't think I laughed at you. I would never do that on this podcast.
I think it was Mitch actually that really came across as extra aggressive when I made fun of, or at least I suggested the possibility that Arsenal may overlook this game. Okay, so City, Newcastle. This was a Newcastle team playing without Isak still. It's not a Newcastle team that's looked all that good so far this season, and yet they managed to hold City to that draw. That scares me. I'm nervous about where this season is headed. Now, the other game you mentioned, Chelsea and Brighton, that first half was just crazy. I was getting alerts left and right. I had the over, obviously, but then I had to shut them off because, I'm getting all these alerts for this game when I'm looking for alerts for a different game. Anyway, two things came to mind from that game. Number one, Cole Palmer, as you've already said, is just a bad hombre. 4 goals in the first half. I mean, all those memes with, like a guy or a girl with like their entire, life on their back. That's me and my FPL team. This guy is just carrying me. I wish I had captained him this week. But listen, I'm happy enough that he's on the team. Number 2, Maresca. Now, this is a guy that we came into the season. I think it was Mikey who said, he might be the first coach to get sent packing. Right now, this guy looks like an absolute genius. So not only are Chelsea, I think they're in 4th right now in the table. They're cooking on offense. He seems to have, the defense, I don't think they've given up a goal in several games. I mean, this team is hot. I know we haven't really talked about them very much. Tommy, what are your thoughts on Chelsea this season?
Well, I think you're finally seeing like the first coaching tree since Johan Cruyff, which is funny enough, still an extension of Johan Cruyff's coaching tree, finally having some success with Arteta, Maresca, company. Like they've just been. Everyone tries to play like Pep's teams, and I think we talked about that only a few can, and he's one of them. And so I think you're finally seeing some of the ideas that he's putting together come to life. But it also helps. Like this was what I was going to say about the City game. It helps when you have a game breaker like Cole Palmer, where you can plan for everything and he's just like, screw your plans, I'm going to score 4 goals and a half. Where as much as City like misses Rodri and will miss Rodri, I think in a game like Newcastle, you saw in the past years when they've played Newcastle, especially away, like KDB just breaks that game open. And they miss that, and not every team has that. To be honest, I don't really think Arsenal has that. They're just like far superior athletically and defensively, whereas Chelsea they have Cole Palmer, and that seems like it's an easy cheat code right now.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I saw. I don't know where it was. Maybe it was the Athletic. There was a article that said, "Has Cole Palmer outgrown Chelsea?" Which I just sort of laughed at because
So, question on Palmer and Foden, because they're gonna always be linked in storylines, narratives, whatever. Do you think if they're the same age, coming up at the same time, and I granted I don't know their age difference, that Palmer gets chosen over Foden, and does the vice versa happen to Foden if Palmer's older than Foden and Foden's the one trying to break past Palmer?
so Phil Foden is 24 years old and Palmer's 22. So they are,
Okay.
slightly different.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Tyler.
So what was the question? If they came up at the same age, would Palmer be taken over Foden? Just like
Yeah. Or would, let's say, Palmer's 2 years older than Foden,
yeah.
and Palmer breaks through first. Does Foden still have the same amount of success if he had to leave City?
I mean, this is going to be a lame answer, but it's all about what's in between the ears, right? I mean, like for Cole Palmer, he made it very clear to Pep, like I want to play, I need minutes, and I want to play now. And Pep was begging him to stay, and he refused. And he was like, if you stay a little bit longer, and you talk about having that cheat code, maybe Pep knew that he was the next cheat code that his group needed, and him and Foden could have terrorized teams together. But for Palmer, he clearly is out to prove something. I mean, he knows what he's capable of, and like he's at Chelsea, he's at a club that a lot of people have counted out, and a lot of people are sort of turning their noses up at, and he's still finding a way to be talked about amidst all of the fucking shitstorm that is that club right now. Whether it be the Clear Lake, the Clearview, or whatever company that owns them, and Bowley, and all this bullshit, and 50 million signings, and Palmer's still finding a way. So to answer your question, like I don't know. I don't know because I think that the simple fact of Pep dismissing Palmer has given him perhaps fuel for a career to be able to prove something. I don't know if Foden has that in the bag. Maybe Foden was somebody from a mental standpoint that needed minutes right away to get that affirmation, and if he didn't, then maybe it screws him over for the rest of his career. I don't know, but it's just scary. It's scary to think that if Palmer had stuck it out for what seemingly looks like 6 to 12 more months, that he and Foden could be on the same team and City have their next game breaker, and we're having the same conversation we're always having.
Oh, and my pants would be slightly less poopy filled at this point if City had a player like, God, Cole Palmer waiting in the wings to just take over. At the same time, he wouldn't have had the minutes that he's had. If he had stuck with City, he wouldn't be Cole Palmer because he wouldn't have had that playing time. So it's obviously hypothetical, but an interesting question nonetheless. Other games. Okay, Arsenal. Tommy, you beat Leicester 3-2 on the road.
4-2.
4-2. Sorry, there was the last goal
At home.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts coming in? Like, what were your thoughts at halftime, and then what were your thoughts at the final whistle?
So I said it. I was on the road this weekend, so I was watching with my roommate, and I was like, if Arsenal gets a second goal before half, this is going to be 5-6-0. That's just the feeling I had at half. They get it right before half. I'm like, oh, this is a cakewalk now. And I think a lot of people were thinking that, including the 11 on Arsenal's field. And then you just like get two bang bang what the fuck soccer plays that happen like one in every 1,000 games. And yeah, then at that point I was like, this is exactly like Fulham last year. You drop early points on the road after a big game, bit of a hangover, whatever you want to call it. And then yeah, crazy stuff happens at the end of the game. But it's if you like look back at that game, they deserve to win. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. But there are still some inklings that they could drop points at home to some of these teams that there's no reason to drop points to. Like I could see, you watch Bournemouth today, I could see them giving Arsenal a tough time soon at home. Like those are the type of games that I'm worried about for them if they want to win the league.
Now, if you look at the stats, you guys had 35 shots, which is insane. 16 of them on goal. Your XG was over 4.5. I mean, you did end up scoring 4 goals, so I guess it sort of tracks a little bit. Like, Leicester was, I mean, you mentioned they had 2 plays, and that was pretty much it. Um, my big talking point was the fact that Trossard was even on the field because Mikel Arteta, like, if you got a guy that he's a serial cheater, right? He just breaks rules left and right, and you just throw this guy right back on the field. It screams uh, just a lack of something, integrity. I think that's going to come back to bite you at some point. That's what I'm telling myself anyway, because really I'm just nervous, very nervous about what this.
I think Arsenal deserve a break from what they've been through from a delay of game standpoint. Like they get a moral pass, I think, in my book.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair.
Well, as long as Tommy agrees with you, I guess it's that's good enough.
I like the moral pass.
Sam, that's a bit greedy on your standpoint for like how much suffering they've been through, and it's week like 7, and on top of the fact that you dismantled United, and you might be the final nail in Ten Hag's very, very primed and ready coffin.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's talk about this game. Manchester United hosting Tottenham Hotspur. Like, we had the better of the game. I think we were up 1-0 before the red card. I'd have to go check. My brain doesn't work.
It was inside of the first few minutes, the first goal.
Yeah, right. Oh, Van de Ven. My God, this guy is amazing.
I love him so much.
He is incredible. I mean, defensively, I didn't know he had that kind of run. Offensively, I know he had that kind of run because the guy is the fastest, human in the Premier League. I didn't know he had that sort of vision and whatever. It was amazing. Just a great start to the game. And then the biggest talking point, obviously, was the red card. Now, as a Tottenham fan, playing United, we don't have the greatest track record against Manchester United. So the fact that we were up 1 and we got a red card and basically the game was over at that point. That's how I felt, and that's actually how it turned out. The game was absolutely over. That red card was so weak. I cannot believe that VAR looked at that and said, you know what? Yeah, that's violent conduct or whatever. Like, I do understand that Bruno's foot, his foot was high, right? It was up on the shin area. But you got to take into consideration all the extenuating circumstances here. That he slipped, he was off balance.
Now you want to take into consideration all the
you should.
Circumstances.
As anybody with a big brain, you always got to keep all the extenuating circumstances in the.
I wish I could mute you right now, because if we were to play the audio from your take on the red card against Liverpool in the Liverpool Spurs game from last year, this sounds totally different.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring up the Trossard, his first red card.
No, I'm going to bring up it's not an identical play, but it's similar in the sense that his foot slips over the ball and everything.
Well, no, but you didn't let me finish. Because not only was there the slipping and off balance, he also did not get him with the studs. He got him with this sort of essentially the top of his foot, which is how you foul somebody in a professional foul. I just thought, VAR will look at this. And, the ref probably thought he got him with the studs. And if he did get him with Bruno had gotten, who was it, Betancourt? No, it was Madison. If he had gotten Madison with his studs that high, I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's a red card for me. But the fact he got him with the top of his foot, or side of his foot, kind of, I thought VAR would look at that and be like, nah, that's not a red, man. The ref could have looked at it, and from the angle he was seeing, it could have looked like a studs type challenge. It wasn't. And I cannot believe they didn't sort of downgrade that to yellow. Now, I know, Tyler, your thoughts on Bruno are probably going to seep into whatever conclusion you're going to draw here.
It's not a red.
Yeah.
It's not a red. I'm with you. I was baffled when I saw that. I was like, they're not really. I was like, I don't even know why they're going to the monitor here. Like, to recommend that they do is pretty insane. But no, as much as I think Bruno's a rat, I don't think that there was anything rat-like on that challenge. I mean, Mark Goldbridge, the guy for Manchester United, he's got his own YouTube channel. He was like, who was the referee for the game? Was it Anthony Taylor? I think it might have been
Oliver. I can't remember.
One of the two. And he was just like, oh, he's had a smile. He couldn't pull out a red card fast enough, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, come on, man. Like,
oh, it was Chris Kavanagh.
Chris Kavanagh. I don't buy into any of that crap that, like, certain referees have a bias against certain teams, but, like, that's pretty soft. That's one of the softer ones you'll see all season.
Oh, for sure.
But to be fair, that had for me, Spurs wins that game 10 times out of 10. Whether it's 11v11, 11v10, if Spurs went down a man, I still think they win the game. United did not look up for that at home. They looked horrid,
No.
absolutely horrid. I'd be at the gates of Old Trafford demanding Ten Hag's head on a spike if I was a United fan.
It's crazy. And my question coming out of that game, obviously it's always easier to fire the manager. You can't fire the players. But Tommy, is Ten Hag a bigger problem than the players right now? Because the players looked awful. They just did not look up for it. I mean, you could say that's partially on Ten Hag for not having the right game plan or whatever. I don't know. This feels like it's just the players to me are a bigger problem than Ten Hag.
Agreed. I think whenever, not I'm going to say every time, but majority of the time when a coach gets fired, a lot of it does fall on the players. They are the ones on the pitch. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think for these top teams, a manager should make that much of a difference. Man United has a culture, a tradition, a standard that goes beyond any manager's possibilities or influence, and they're just not playing to that. So I 100% agree that at this point, a majority of it goes onto the players. And it's the other thing you look at is some of it's just like stupid mistakes as well on the field. That plus their backline's not great, which again I wouldn't entirely put on Ten Hag and more the people above him. So yeah, I think I do have some sympathy for him in this one.
There was like the first goal is actually a perfect example of this. When Van de Ven, I mean, he ran through like the entire right side of United's offense and defense, and then he crossed the ball, and I think it was Dalot who just like didn't mark his man, and like before the goal even went in, he just raised his hand like, "Yep, that one's on me. Sorry, boys." I mean, that's just sort of a symptom of what's going wrong. Like that's like what, the third minute of the game and you're already letting that happen. That's insane. Or maybe it's the first minute, whatever. There is something but we've been saying this, like the level of United is historically, right? But like the last, decade? Has it been that long? Like, how good have they been? I realize I'm saying this as a fan of a team who have won less trophies than them in this period. I acknowledge that. But yeah, I don't know. United, the rock goes deep. And I don't know what firing Ten Hag, unless you got a plan B ready to go. I just don't really know what that does at this point.
I don't know. I think that there needs to be a change. For me, I think that this squad is worthy of qualifying for Champions League from a sheer talent standpoint. I truly believe that.
You think they have a better squad than Spurs?
I do.
Yeah, see, that's where I disagree. I think Spurs is better.
I think United are deeper, and I think that their ceiling is higher. I think Spurs are more consistent, and I think that they buy into what their coach is saying. Like, for me, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that you send out those 11 players or whoever, the 14 to 15 that they have that they're going to run with most games, that they get worked like that at home against Spurs, that they get absolutely throttled by Liverpool 3-0 at home. Like, I just can't wrap my head around that. And whether it's the players shitting the bed and not buying into what Ten Hag is saying and not tracking back and being disinterested, fine. But like you said, Sam, you can't fire the players. And for me, this is just simply a matter of like, they need a new voice. And everybody wants to talk about the FA Cup final from last year and how they reacted and how everybody ran over to Ten Hag. Now, as we're looking back at that, and it's easy to say, but I still think it's true, with their performances the first 7 games of the season, you're, as a player, Tommy, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but like, if you win a cup in that moment, if you don't like Ten Hag, you're not going to not run over to your coach and snub him and like be conscious of what's going on. You just beat Manchester City in an FA Cup final. Because a lot of people were basically saying he beat Pep, they deserve to win, and the reaction from the players certainly seemed like they're bought into what Ten Hag is trying to do. So that's why they gave him a second chance. But these games and these performances, and like you said, the marking on that first goal, Rashford giving up, and just the overall ineptitude and inability to buy into any sort of tactical plan that Ten Hag is throwing out there, if there is one, leads me to believe that, like, even if firing Ten Hag and you don't have a plan B right now, you need somebody else's voice in there, whether it be mine, whether it be Sam's, whether it be Tommy's. Any of us would get more out of these guys than Ten Hag would right now, because clearly that's not working. It's just not.
Couldn't agree more on that part. I think it sounds like Van Nistelrooy might be the one that might be the waiting in the wings. That'd be an interesting move.
Southgate, baby.
Southgate. Or
well, if you need someone to, like, clearly they need to change the culture.
Ole Gunnar said, interesting move by Ole Gunnar. Like, well, listen, I would never talk about somebody's job who has a job, but yeah, I would go back and coach Manchester United if they asked me to.
Well, unfortunately for Southgate, you can't draw 2 games and win 1 game and then basically, coast through penalties for the remainder of the season. That's not how the Premier League works.
That's not going to help. All right. Last but not least, on the ones I had written down, Everton. That we've figured it out. The key to success for Everton: don't fucking score first. Do not score first. If you do that, you let them score, you'll win. That's my only takeaway from this game, other than the fact that Crystal Palace might be in trouble. They're in the... Yeah, I know you, Tyler, you were the first one to say, Everton is a legitimate relegation contender this season, and they've certainly looked like it so far this season. Crystal Palace is now in the relegation zone, 18th place. They've got 3 points from 6 games. 3 points. 3 goal... actually, they've got 5 goals scored and 9 against. Not good. Is Crystal Palace a relegation contender?
No.
Too good for that.
No.
I think they made a big mistake selling who they sold over this summer, because they could have been a really fun team this year.
Did they only sell Elise? Is he the only one? I thought that he was the only one they sold. They sold somebody else?
No. They sold Anderson. They sold Johnston. They sold Edward. They sold IU. And then I think there was you said Elise, right?
Yeah.
IU was getting up there, though.
Yeah.
So, but still, like, you take Elise out.
Edouard's a tough one. But Edouard and Elise are, yeah.
Anderson as well. Yeah, that is
And your starting goalie, because I'm assuming Johnston started, right? No, Henderson started. Sorry.
Yeah. They got a lot of things to figure out. Imagine if they had sold Gahey too.
Yeah. Look, they're still going to sell. They could still sell Eze, Wharton, and Gahey for tons of money, but I don't think that they were prepared to let go of some of those guys and still keep the same pace. But they'll regress back to what they should be.
All right. Well, we'll sort of talk about. We'll put a bow on this segment by doing a power rankings. We haven't done this in a while. But it's back by popular demand, meaning that I said, let's bring it back, and Tyler didn't actually shout me down this time. So we're going to do top 4 if you played on a neutral field. I do feel like it's a good, interesting time to do this, because we got a City squad that's going to be without Rodri for the rest of the season. You got Liverpool in first, Arsenal, looking good, but they also just gave up 2 goals at home to Leicester. And then you got a whole bunch of teams fighting for the 4th. You got Chelsea, Aston Villa. Fulham is actually in 6th place in the table right now. Quietly. How about Fulham, America there? Shout out Jedi. And then Newcastle and Tottenham, Brighton, if you really want to get jiggy with it. So top 4. Tyler, you wanna give it your shot, and we'll critique?
Yeah. Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea.
Don't disagree.
Yeah, I got to go Arsenal 1. You said Liverpool 2?
Yeah.
I think that's where I might.
We would beat City tomorrow.
I mean, it's tough to disagree given what City's looked like recently. I do think that there is an element of this. Liverpool, who have you played so far? But, I mean, yeah. I guess I'll go along with that. The 4th slot, I would maybe give a shout for Tottenham if we're all healthy. I would. I'd put Tottenham in 4 ahead of Chelsea. Just ahead of Chelsea.
Even though you're in 8th place right now.
Yes. Yes.
You would put okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We've had some tough performances, but listen, Chelsea.
I think that's the most unrealistic I've ever heard you on the power rankings. That's
Really?
wild. That's wild. You've been drinking what I've been drinking recently.
Maybe so, but this team. I know we've had some bad games and some bad luck.
I wouldn't put Villa like
You put Villa ahead of us? The way they just
Yeah.
looked against Ipswich?
dude. Teams drop points to Ipswich. It happens. It happens.
Okay. All right, that one hit a little too close to home. Listen, we all have Arsenal at number 1 right now. I guess I would go with Liverpool at 2. I can sign off on that. I think Chelsea Liverpool at 2 right now is a real close battle. Yeah, I'm gonna go Arsenal. I'm gonna go Tottenham 4 though. Okay, bottom. this might actually be tougher. So bottom 3 right now. If we're just going off the table, Wolves are dead last in 20th with 1 point. That is bad. Southampton also on 1 point in 19th place. They're one better on goal differential, only 9 down. And then Crystal Palace on 3 points is just behind Leicester, who's also on 3 points. I don't know which tiebreaker that came down to. Anyway, also in the mix here, you got to throw Everton, you got to throw Ipswich, West Ham. I guess you could throw Manchester United, Brentford, Bournemouth. So Tommy, I'll throw it to you. Who are you going in order 2019-18? Worst 3 right now.
Wolves, Southampton, Leicester.
Okay, that's almost from the table. So you got Wolves that far down?
Yeah, I mean, when you are dead last and have given up 16 goals in 6 games, I think it warrants you to be in last place.
And they're usually a group that relies heavily on being stout defensively because they're not full of goals.
Now, true. What I'll say in Wolves' defense is if you look at their schedule, the teams they've played, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Brighton in the EFL Cup, and Forest.
Arsenal, too.
And Arsenal.
Arsenal on the first day.
That is a run
Tough. Yeah.
of
It is tough. But
tough
you've
games.
got to get, and Forest has started well, etc. But like, you've got to pick up more than 1 point.
Yeah.
If they had picked up two and they had drawn one of those other teams that we had just mentioned, we would probably be having a different conversation. But losing to all of them is, losing's a habit.
Okay, so is Wolves, so we've said Palace is not in a relegation battle. Everton, at least according to Tyler, is Wolves in a relegation contender? Tommy says yes. Tyler? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
I don't
I
think
would,
so.
and I would have Leicester in my 3 right now. Everton winning a game this early is not looking good for my blue side of mercy to go crumbling down to the championship. But
Yeah, they caught Palace at a
fingers
good time.
crossed. Fingers crossed.
I got Wolves. I don't think Wolves is a relegation contender. I think they got too much talent. I think that they will move up the table, and I just think that they've had a really, really tough run of games.
Well, they can't move down the table
They can't
yet.
go down. That's a good point. We've hit rock bottom. All right, FPL. Do this quickly, although I would like to talk about this for a little bit. I could talk about this for an hour if we really wanted. I had one of my best weeks ever. That's obviously big thanks to Cole Palmer. I scored 88 points. So that was Mo Salah had 20. That's with captaining him. Van de Ven, Pedro Porro, Gahey, Havertz with the absolute last minute lucky goal. And Cole Palmer just carrying Sam's Army. Now, in the Sam's Army Council of Elders League, I am now in first. That's got to be the first time I've ever been in first.
Sick, dude.
Dude, listen, this is big. This is big for me, Tyler. This is big, okay? I'm usually at the bottom of these tables. I have at least changed my team every week so far. So that's the kind of guy you're working with here. So I'm on 404 points at the moment, just ahead of Isaac at FPL, Mitchell Goulet, 398. Mikey Fowler, 377. FCTT, 341. And McGunners. McGunners. You got some making up to do in the pool. So I've actually moved up to 59th in the Sam's Army Podcast League, which has got to be my high all time. Shout out to the top 5. Kyle. That's just his team name. Kyle. Kyle McGurn, excuse me. 452 points. Double B's, Brian Stopar, second place. Pingin' and Wingin', Sam Bellinger is in third place. McAllister's Deli, Harrison York is in fourth. And then It's Called Saka. Ryan Miller is in fifth. Well done to all you guys. We will now move to the weekend preview. So, some interesting games coming up. Several on Sunday when Aston Villa host Manchester United in disarray. Brighton host Spurs, and then the only other game I had written down, and maybe this is just a troll, Tyler, but I said Crystal Palace hosting Liverpool, ? Upset alert. Upset alert? Said with a question mark. So, Tommy, what game are you most intrigued by this weekend?
Probably Villa United. Villa's, if you want to tie in some of the Champions League stuff, Villa's got 2 bangers at home this week. They play Bayern home in Champions League midweek. And this certainly feels like a get right, get out of jail potential victory for United after that game.
Yeah. I mean, they also have a midweek game on the road in Portugal against Porto, which, that's never going to be.
That ain't easy either.
Yeah, that's not going to be a walk in the park.
Rest. Yeah.
But I do agree. Listen, Aston Villa, the emotional highs of playing in Champions League after all these years and then having to play Bayern, that could be a dispiriting experience. And then United, I don't know. I guess I can't give United too much credit given what the results we've seen lately. But yeah, that'll be a good game on Sunday. Tyler, what game stands out to you?
City and Fulham. Are Fulham for real? And can they potentially pick off City while they're reeling right now?
It's a good shout.
Question mark.
Question mark. Red with a question mark. Yes, that's a good shout. I didn't realize that Fulham had moved that far up the table to 6th. I feel like they've done that very quietly. And they're doing that with our guy, Jedi Robinson, who's playing very well lately. That's a great shout. Other games, as I said, Brighton Spurs should be an interesting one on Sunday. And Palace Liverpool. Listen, I got laughed off the pod last week when I said Arsenal might be a overlooked game. Palace, this is a team that's desperate. So Liverpool, just pointing it out there. Just putting it out there. All right, we're not actually done. We're done with the Premier League segment, but we're going to hit halftime, which is Premier League related. So, weekly what if? Sir Radcliffe hands you full control of Manchester United today. And let's pretend we actually, have stake in the game, like your life depends on Manchester United winning, as opposed to all of us who obviously have biases against them. What would you do? And we're talking from now until, you'd have the January window, you'd have the summer transfer window. What do you do, Tyler?
I lure Mauricio Pochettino away from the U.S. men's national team.
I already hate this answer.
No, I fire Ten Hag as soon as I get the job, and I bring in somebody like a Van Nistelrooy. I know there have been rumors of that.
Isn't he already? He's already sort of on the bench, isn't he? No.
He's an assistant.
Yeah, he's an assistant there.
Yeah. So I have Van Nistelrooy take over on an interim basis, and I put the interim tag next to his name. But behind closed doors, while we're having a little cheeky pint, say, listen, man, this is not interim. You are the head coach, but I need the guys to think that, there could be somebody else coming in and they just need to play right now. They don't need to worry about who's in charge, who's not in charge, playing little mind games with my fragile little mental midgets that are running around the field. And then we find a way to crack on. I don't think, again, personnel-wise, I don't think that there are any massive changes that need to happen. Defensively, I know that they've been struggling. Tommy mentioned that, but I think most of that has to do with effort, cohesion, and buy-in, and all of which is not happening under Ten Hag. So that's what I do.
It's fair. One guy we haven't mentioned, I think there was talked about just quickly when he basically didn't play defense. Marcus Rashford has been a ghost out there. He's been doing nothing. I don't understand. There must be something going on behind closed doors between him and Ten Hag because I know he hasn't even been playing all that much. Something's wrong there. One thing that so all that I would agree with. I don't know. I feel like maybe they need somebody. Van Nistelrooy obviously knows the culture, so that could be a good fit. I was thinking bringing somebody just a big like a Zizou in as a coach. Like I know he's talked about not wanting to go to like an English team because he wants to be able to speak the language, but Zinedine Zidane just seems like the kind of guy that will make any team a winner. And so I think you just got to pay whatever you got to pay. Also, I think that Bruno, he just doesn't seem like the captain of this team. Like I know he actually, to his credit, I will say Bruno came out after the game and spoke to the media, which I think guys who get tough red cards like that don't always do. I thought that was a good move by him, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem like the type to be the captain of Manchester United. I feel like they need somebody else. I think Harry Maguire may be that guy, but like he's gone through too much ins and outs. Like he that just doesn't work either. You got to bring somebody else in, a real captain. Tommy, anything to add on fixing Manchester United? Other than are the Glazers, by the way, are they still own a segment, a piece of United? I think they do. You got to kick them to the curb.
I'm sure they do, but they're not like the controlling owner.
Right, Ineos is.
Doesn't matter.
You gotta get the Glazers out. Just gotta start there. Tommy, anything to add though?
Yeah, I think like when you watch United, and if you break their like positional groups down from like defenders, midfielders, forwards, and wingers, fullbacks, whatever, they're all on different pages. Like you've got wingers who just want to run in behind, just want to counterattack. Bruno loves to play that final pass and can do it very well. And then I don't think they have two very good controlling midfielders, which is what most of these top teams have. And their back four wants to keep the ball and not get exposed in space and like really be able to control space and the ball within a game. And then the game just becomes like this for them, and that's why they give up a shit ton of goals. So bring in someone who can solve that issue from a front office and coach side where, the players you have and the profiles you have all kind of match up together. And I think a lot of United's issues are solved.
Boom. We just solved Manchester United. Hope they're listening. All right, we'll move on to Round the World. We'll start with Champions League. So we're back with match day, I guess, 2 is what we're looking at here. Some interesting games. We got Arsenal PSG on Tuesday, and that the news came out that Dembele has been dropped from the team for something. I don't know. Him and the coach must have had a little falling out there. So nice little bonus time for Arsenal. What game stands out to you, Tyler?
Well, that PSG one, that is such a bummer because they've actually been playing really well. And like Luis Enrique clearly was pushing the right buttons, particularly after the Mbappe sale. And I think that those guys were sort of sick and tired of that saga, but I don't really know. I want more information on what happened because it seemed like everything was pretty hunky-dory in the locker room. So that's kind of a bummer. That probably would have been one of my top ones. It still is, but Leverkusen Milan has to be up there. Even though Milan has been really up and down, and they obviously had that big win in the Milan derby, but other than that, they were pretty shocking. And then Villa Bayern. I want to see what this Villa team can do against the Giant. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but like
I was going to say,
I smell John Duran anytime goal, like we've been smelling for the past several weeks.
he didn't come through for us this weekend when I really needed him to, but that's all right. That's a good shout. Good shouts. Tommy, any game or games stand out to you this midweek?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned the Bayern Aston Villa one. That's one I'm going to tune in for for the first 15 minutes and maybe switch to something else. I do like Dortmund Celtic. I wish that was at Celtic. Just I love these kind of historic clubs playing each other with great crowds. And then on Wednesday, another shout. I mean, if Bologna still had Thiago Motta. That could be an interesting one. I'm going to go with Leipzig Juventus, where you have high press, gegenpressing, Leipzig versus Juventus and Thiago Motta's kind of interchanging positional play and all the rotations he does. It could be an exciting and high scoring game.
Good shouts. I was looking at the PSV hosting Sporting. I feel like that's going to be a great game. Sporting's been, playing really well, and PSV obviously as well. All the other ones you guys have already talked about. So yeah, just as always, it's great to have games in midweek, and of course we got Europa and Conference League on Thursday, but we're not going to run through those. We don't care about whatever Turkish team, actually Hungarian team that Tottenham is playing this week. So we'll move on to the Minuteman himself with the Hit and Quit and MLS Minute. Are you ready to hit us with what you got, Tyler?
Yes, sir. All right. So, as you all know, regular season coming down to the wire. Match day 35 out of 38 in Major League Soccer. And we're going to start in our nation's capital. And by our nation, I mean the United States, for those of you who are listening in Bangladesh and wherever else you might be listening. So we'll start with DC United and the Columbus Crew. The Crew needing 3 points. They're trying to leapfrog FC Cincinnati for that number 2 spot in the Eastern Conference. They're noisy neighbors to the south. But DC United and Christian Benteke had other thoughts. Benteke gets the scoring started, but then Cucho Hernandez with a goal and an assist to make it 2-1. And then Benteke again for his 21st goal of the season. He now leads all goal scorers in Major League Soccer. And Troy Lesane's group gets a massive point and limits Columbus Crew's damage for Cincinnati. And we'll get to that in just a second, as well as my lock that I thought was a lock, but certainly wasn't. New England Revolution 1-0 over Nashville. Who cares? 2 teams, both suck. Didn't mean anything. How about a Hudson River derby between Red Bulls and NYCFC? New York is blue, folks, and boy, is it ever. Alonso Martinez with an MVP type of performance, as he has been sensational for the Pigeons all year. The game was at Red Bull Arena, but NYCFC stormed over the Hudson River into Harrison, into Red Bull Arena, and put up a 5 spot against Sandro Schwartz's side. 5-1 is the final score. All right, let's head to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I told all of you that this was the lock to end all locks. And boy, was I wrong, because Pat Noonan's group came out and absolutely shitted in their own fart in the first half. LAFC jump out to a 1-0 lead. Cincinnati equalize. Luke Ordashano with his 5th goal from outside of the penalty area, his 10th on the season, but then Denny Bouanga, Olivier Giroud, and Timothy Tillman come off the bench and flip the script in the second half. Bouanga with his 18th goal of the season, and LAFC, after winning U.S. Open Cup on the other side of the country 3 days ago, end up getting a 2-1 win. And for those of you who Venmo'd me, I love all of you, and I actually just fulfilled all the Venmo requests as we are doing this podcast right now. That is a one-time thing. Don't ever think about doing it again. I genuinely feel bad, and I'm never making a type of lock like that ever again until this episode of Ivan Toney's Best Bets. All right, let's go north of the border. Montreal taking San Jose, the bottom feeders of Major League Soccer. Come on, you can do it and avoid being one of the worst teams that MLS has ever seen. No, you cannot. CF Montreal might just wiggle their way into the postseason. 3-0 is the final score. San Jose is destitute. What a sad excuse for a season. Philadelphia and Atlanta play to a 1-1 draw along the banks of the Delaware River. Then in South Florida, Inter Miami and Charlotte tie by a score of 1-1. Lionel Messi with the lone goal for Miami. Karol Swiderski off a little deflection for Charlotte, and they would have to split the spoils. And Inter Miami with a win over to Columbus this week. They can clinch the Supporters' Shield for the first time in club history. FC Dallas at home against Orlando, needing 3 points to keep their playoff hopes alive. But Oscar Pareja and the Lions, what to make of this group, I still don't know. A lot of people peg them as a favorite to maybe upset somebody in the first round of the Major League Soccer postseason. They win the game by a score of 3-1. All right, let's head to the Windy City, or should I say Bridgeview, Illinois, where Chicago Fire fans continue to turn out and show up and watch their team suck eternally, and they miss out in the postseason for a 7th consecutive season. 1-1 draw against John Herdman's Toronto FC. St. Louis and Sporting, 2 sides that are eliminated, but a good rivalry. And I'll tell you what, the atmosphere was incredible, where there are no repercussions for getting eliminated for the postseason. And St. Louis win the derby match by a score of 3-1. Austin and RSL. Austin have been dreadful in terms of locking out games and trying to see out games and scoring goals. RSL jump out to a 2-0 lead, but then Austin at home prevent RSL from really doing some damage in the Western Conference. 2-2 is the final score. RSL will head into matchday 36 in 3rd place. Meanwhile, Minnesota United and Eric Ramsey, since the insertion of Kelvin Yeboah, Joaquin Pereira, and Jefferson Diaz, their 3 big-time summer transfers, They have been red hot. Kelvin Yeboah at the brace. One of them came off of his face and scored, and they dispatch at home Chris Armas's Colorado Rapids by a score of 3-0. And Minnesota are vying to host that wild card game and potentially get out of an 8 and 9 wild card game and maybe leapfrog the Vancouver Whitecaps, but still work to be done. Let's head over to the Pacific Northwest, where Brian Schmetzer and the Seattle Sounders defeated Ben Olsen's red-hot Houston Dynamo by a score of 1-0. Big result for the Sounders and company. And then a little Cascadia Cup between Vancouver and Portland. The spoils would be shared between Vanni Sartini's side and Phil Neville's crew. Low-scoring game for two high-scoring outfits, and that would do it for match day 35 in Major League Soccer.
Well done, sir. The only supplements I will add to that, number one, gimme Berhalter. I know there's been a lot of chatter about Greg Berhalter.
Where, in San Jose or Chicago?
No, Chicago. Hopefully Chicago. Gimme Berhalter. Let's get him in here. Let's get this going. I bet he'd turn the ship around. I am on team Greg in for Chicago Fire. Also, John Fisher, the guy who's getting absolutely battered by everybody in the media, by all the fans for killing the Oakland A's. He is far more quietly, I guess, killing San Jose Earthquakes as well. Like, this guy's got to be one of the worst owners in all of sports. Anyway, well done, Minuteman. You always bring the pain, bring the thunder. We'll move on quickly. USMNT watch. So there's some highlights here. Christian Pulisic. I've been saying this for weeks. The guy is incredible. 5 goals. He scored again this week against weekend against Lecce. 5 goals and 2 assists in 6 games so far this season. Can we say he's the best American? Like, no caveats, no asterisks, no just like statement. He's the best American soccer player in history. Yes or no?
No.
Really? Okay, you're gonna stay with?
I will confidently say he will be.
He will be.
Right. That's the only, we know he will be. He's not the most accomplished, right? That's sort of like the sticking point there. But man,
He's the most talented, that's for sure.
He is the most accomplished He is the most accomplished American in Europe. That we can definitively say now. But like the guy, like the Tab Ramoses of the world, and Landon, and like in a time where it was really, really taboo for Americans to be playing abroad, and Tab, I know, didn't really do it, but Landon did, especially during a time when nobody was. Christian's doing it at a time where everybody is. So it's difficult to like definitively make that statement right now. I think he will be. I'm with Tommy. He is the most accomplished club player who's from America of all time.
You're really finding ways to cut this.
I need more proof. I need more proof.
You don't need more proof. You just need more time and more sort of accolades and another World Cup. And another World Cup. Okay. Also on the plus side, Ricardo Pepi El Train with a brace this weekend. He's still in a tough spot where he's not starting and he's not getting as many minutes as I'm sure he would like, but he just keeps producing. I guess it'll be interesting to see if he sticks around in January or goes to find more minutes. And then Fuller and Balogun back on the score sheet. Always love to see that. I think it was his second goal for Monaco this season. Now on the bad side, Haji Wright. He got yanked at halftime last weekend. I think that was against Swansea. And then this weekend, he got benched. He didn't start for Coventry, who are in 21st place. That's not good. That's just not good. So we'll keep it nice and short, quick and short there. And just a quick shout out, LAFC. It was like a big week of trophies they handed out. LAFC won the U.S. Open Cup. Columbus lost to America in a shootout in the, what are they calling it? The Campeones Cup. And then Canadian Cup. I think, who won that? Vancouver? I think so. I think Vancouver beat Toronto. All right. Stoppage time. Where we got to start with Ivan Toney's best bets. Folks, we are cooking with gas at the moment. 5 for 5 last week. And in the first, this has got to be a first time ever. I have gone 5 for 5.
What are you affecting a country accent now when you're talking about your over?
I don't know. You put the hat on, it's a totally different personality.
You're rooting, tooting, over gambling with Sam's Army.
Throw a little West Virginia in the mix there. So every game ended with 3 goals. Every single game. So Egerson Stabak, that was, I don't even know where that is, Norway, I think, 2-1. Espanyol Villarreal 1-2. Stade Nyon and Aarau in Switzerland 1-2. Minnesota United Colorado Rapids 3-0. And Manchester United versus Tottenham, we've talked about it, 3-0 spanking. Every game ended with 3 goals. This week, we're staying hot. That's what we're doing. We're staying hot. We're going to go on Wednesday. We're going to go in our own backyard. Here in MLS, we got a full slate of games. Columbus is hosting Miami. You know both those teams are going to be up for this game. Columbus has probably heard all the talk about how Miami is, Miami. Miami's heard, at least from Tommy, that Columbus might be the best team in North America. So that's some motivation right there. So both these teams are going to be up for it. Columbus versus Miami will go over on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to go to the Conference League, where there are always goals galore. Heidenheim is facing Olympia Ljubljana. I probably mispronounced that, but Heidenheim, Olympia Ljubljana are going over on Thursday. Friday, we got a team called B93. Yes, it's not an AM radio or FM radio station. It's an actual team in Denmark. B93 is hosting Esbjerg in the Danish second tier, and that game might go over 7.5. They played 2 weeks ago. It was 5-3. They play often and they score a lot. Saturday, we're going to the Bundesliga 2. Schalke and Hertha. These teams have played each other and gone over every time since 2020. Okay, and last time they played on it was 5-4. This game is absolutely going over, probably going over 3.5 on Saturday, and then Sunday we'll finish up with the Norwegian second tier, which along with the Swiss second tier has quietly been treating me quite well lately. And we're going to have Egersund hosting Kongsvinger. That's in the Norwegian second tier. So there you go. 5-a-side overtrain. We are cooking. Let's stay cooking. Next up, Tyler, who you want to give some locks out and offer some money-back guarantees to?
No more money back guarantees. That was it. And oddly enough, I got another request after I finished the MLS hit and quit a minute. I apologize to Evan Song, but I already paid everybody out.
It's because he had a friend that got paid. And he's like, oh shit, I need to get in on that.
Probably. Only the real ones get it. So I am going to stick on the overtrain. I'm going to do a little parlay. You got over 3.5 in the Villa Bayern game, over 3.5 in Columbus Inter Miami, and over 3.5 in RSL in Minnesota for a grand total of plus 937 for parlaying them, baby.
That sounds like a money back guarantee from.
There's no more of a lock on parlays than this one.
So if it doesn't hit, just send your Venmo request to Mitch. All right, Tommy McCabe, who you got for us this week?
I've got Columbus, Philly, and Stuttgart, Hoffenheim overs.
Oh, everybody's going to overtrain. Toot. Loving this, boys. Welcome aboard. All right, GOAWs, everybody's favorite segment. I got a couple, but I don't want to take anybody else's. So, Tommy, you look like you're ready. Who you got for us?
Yeah, I am giving mine out to goalkeepers, specifically Loudoun United's and an over 55 team in North London. My dad. One had an assist today in the 98th minute, or it's this weekend in the 98th minute, and the other one won 2 penalty shootouts in Portugal in a men's league tournament. Fun fact, he played against Jude Bellingham's dad. He did score on him.
Who scored on who? Oh, Jude Bellingham's dad scored on your dad? Or your dad, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Your dad, I didn't know your dad was a keeper.
Yeah, keeper in college.
Lost a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, he didn't want me to do the same. So,
yeah, I'm glad you brought up your keeper. What was it, 98th minute with the assist?
With the assist, yeah, like a
game tying. Was that game tying or game winning?
Game tying.
Okay. Well done. I don't like it, but I respect it. Tyler, who you got for GOAWs?
First one, Kai Kamara, 40 years old, scored a clinching U.S. Open Cup title goal in extra time for LAFC. The dude is just timeless. I mean, second all-time leading scorer in the history of MLS, and he not only is scoring goals, but like he's involved. Like he holds up play, he moves like he doesn't move like a 40-year-old. It's pretty incredible. And he did it for LAFC, where he sort of grew up. He moved to Maryland originally from a refugee camp, originally from Sierra Leone, and then eventually settled in LA. Went to Cal State Dominguez, which I believe is right next to where the LA Galaxy play, next to Dignity Health Sports Park. But big ups to the 40-year-old who I actually got to say what's up to. He and I, obviously spent a little bit of time together. He was in Chicago. I saw him before the Cincinnati LAFC game. And then the other one, how about Bob Bradley getting dismissed from STOPPAGE? I don't know if we covered that in last week's episode, but yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned it quickly in the best bets. Yeah, because I took Staubach in best bets. And
you took it last week too.
No, I didn't take Staubach in the best bets this week. I took him last week, and so I mentioned
new coach bump. That's what you're hoping.
New coach bump. Yeah, it worked. It worked.
Bob Bradley to Chicago, maybe.
Oh,
who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? Back to his roots, where he helped the club win their first few trophies.
I could get on board with that.
All right.
All right, my go is for the week. I had Mohammed El Fayed written down, just as obviously a bad go. All this news coming out about sort of the sexual assault and stuff involving him. He's passed away at this point. He's dead. But man, this stuff when he was owner of Fulham, I'm not even going to get into it, but it sounds like it was just a bad news with the women's team. It's just some bad stories coming out there. My actual go is honorable mention to the Atletico Madrid fan who took a dump in that bag and hurled that bag at Thibaut Courtois during the Madrid derby. That takes a lot of hate, and I understand that there's some frayed nerves, some serious butthurt among the Atletico fan base and Thibaut Courtois, who played for them for 3 years on loan from Chelsea. And now he's obviously playing for Real Madrid, so I know that he's sort of become the number one persona non grata for Real Madrid fans, or for Atletico fans. But yeah, that takes some serious hate to shit in a bag and throw it at somebody. My actual go, though, New England Revolution. They gave Cancer a yellow card. That takes bravery and takes balls. Personally, just me, I would say maybe a red card. I would say, if I was refereeing the game of life, I'd give Cancer a red card, but I don't know what the ad campaign was. But yeah, the New England Revolution had some sort of screen that became a meme this weekend because they gave Cancer a yellow card, which I don't know who okayed that advertising campaign, but we're going to have a conversation about that. Anyway, so shout out to the Revs for, their heart was in the right place. And there we go. That's all we got time for this week. Tyler, Tommy, you guys are the best. Mitchell, Mikey, we'll get them back at some point soon. Everybody who's listening, especially the ones who sent Tyler Venmo requests, you guys are the best. We appreciate you, even if you're making him poor, or maybe even especially if you're making him poor. We'll be back next week. Bigger, better, faster, stronger. See you guys then.